बड़ी बातें हुई इस वक्त। चलिए आपको एक बार फिर से गवर्नर साहब की पीसी में लेकर चलते हैं, एड्रेस कर रहे हैं, कुछ और इंपॉर्टेंट बातें निकल के आएंगी।
However, Indian economy amidst all this remains resilient. The second point is that inflation has shown signs of moderation. I repeat, inflation has shown signs of moderation and the worst is behind us. But there are concerns around core inflation. We cannot take our eyes off inflation. Third, we are now witnessing conducive conditions of macroeconomic stability as reflected in moderation in inflation, fiscal consolidation, and the expectation that the current account deficit is likely to narrow in the coming quarters. Fourth, the Indian rupee has remained one of the least volatile currencies among its Asian peers in 2022 and continues to be so this year also. Fifth, the real policy rate has moved into positive territory and the banking system has exited from the Chakravyuh of excess liquidity without causing any disruption. Monetary policy transmission is also picking up. Sixth, on liquidity, the Reserve Bank will remain flexible and responsive to the requirements of the productive sectors of the economy. And seventh and the final point is that we in the Reserve Bank of India stand resolute to deal with all future challenges. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those opening remarks. I will start the press conference I'll invite Mr. Govardhan Rangan from Economic Times to ask his question.
Thank you, Gaji. So, good morning, Governor. With this policy, probably you're not surprised, you just met the expectations. But in terms of the future outlook, your inflation forecast for next year is 5.3 and the Q4 of next year is at 5.6. If one looks at when there is a consensus among all the central bankers that inflationary pressures is easing, you yourself mentioned, but what is the reason for forecasting at 5.6%, which is higher than what the MPR forecast in the last edition? So why is there? What is that has made you increase the forecast for next year fourth quarter? And what is the message with the two of the MPC members already saying that we have done enough? So how does one read this in terms of messaging as to what is that in store? Okay,
I would request Deputy Governor Michael Patra to take that question.
Sure. Yeah, as you mentioned, the average inflation is actually lower in 23-24 than in 22-23. And you specifically mentioned the second half of the year. That is because of the base effects of this year playing out into there. That's why the higher inflation.
In terms of the widening difference within the MPCs, when the external members are saying that, okay, you've done enough and the inflation is easing. So why is that, still there is kind of an indication that there may be rate hikes and, okay, not a pause?
No, ultimately the MPC decision is the majority decision. And with regard to indication, it's not possible to, say anything. I have said it earlier also that in the current tightening cycle especially with regard to rates, we have refrained from giving any forward guidance because sometimes it can be, and quite likely sometimes, it may become counterproductive. So we are not giving any forward guidance. We have said that we will be extremely watchful of the incoming data as well as the outlook on inflation as well as what is happening in the overall economy. Based on that, we will decide going into the future months.
Thank you, sirs. I'll invite Thank you, sirs. I'll invite Mr. Anand Adhikari from Business Today to ask his question.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, I have done some analysis of, those three food items. I was looking at the CPI, basket, and I have seen cereals, eggs, and spices.
Cereals?
Eggs and spices. So they have been a consistent rise since May, month on month. Cereals and, spices, I think, not even a single month that has gone down. In case of eggs, they are, prices are high, but in the last 2 months, we have seen at least 5%, rise in the last 2 months. I just want to know, what is your assessment of these three items, in the food basket, and will they remain sticky?
You see, each component of the food inflation, or let me put it this way, each component of the headline inflation, and beyond that, each component of the food inflation, the core inflation, and the fuel inflation, each of the components, the momentum, that is the month-on-month momentum, are very closely examined by the MPC and by our research teams within the RBI. And based on that, we give out certain statements. Like, for example, I have said that the moderation in vegetable prices in the last 2 months, that is in November and December, they more than offset the price momentum in cereals, and I have mentioned 1 or 2 items there. So we are examining all these components, and the future trajectory of each of these components, the month-on-month momentum, it's all built into our projections.
Thank you.